My child, listen to me carefully, because this moment is not random, and this message is not something you stumbled upon by chance. I see what you have been sensing in silence. I hear the questions you never asked out loud. There has been a quiet uneasiness in your spirit, a feeling that something around you is no longer aligned, that certain smiles feel forced, that certain conversations feel empty, and that certain people feel close only when it benefits them. You tried to ignore it. You told yourself not to judge, not to assume, not to create distance. But discernment is not judgment, and wisdom is not cruelty. What you are feeling is clarity beginning to rise. For a long time, you carried people who were never meant to be carried. You poured into relationships that rarely poured back into you. You stayed loyal even when loyalty was not returned. You stayed available even when your presence was taken for granted. You gave the benefit of the doubt again and again, believing that patience would eventually change people. But patience is not meant to excuse disrespect, and love is not meant to cost you your peace. I watched you wrestle with this, questioning whether walking away would make you cold, whether setting boundaries would make you selfish, whether choosing yourself would make you wrong. And I want you to know this clearly: protecting your spirit does not make you unkind, it makes you wise. Some people around you learned how to stay close without being genuine. They learned how to speak your language without sharing your heart. They learned how to benefit from your strength while quietly resenting your growth. They applauded you when it was convenient and withdrew when your progress reminded them of their own stagnation. They listened closely, not because they cared deeply, but because they wanted to stay informed. They asked questions, not to support you, but to compare themselves to you. And while you were being sincere, they were being strategic. You felt it when conversations suddenly changed after you shared good news. You felt it when encouragement sounded rehearsed instead of heartfelt. You felt it when your vulnerability became gossip, when your kindness became expectation, when your silence became an opportunity for others to speak for you. Still, you stayed. You stayed because you valued history. You stayed because you feared misunderstanding. You stayed because you believed loyalty meant endurance at any cost. But there comes a moment when endurance turns into self-betrayal, and that is the moment I step in. I am not removing people to punish you. I am removing people to preserve you. There are connections in your life that have expired, and expired connections, when held on to, begin to poison the present. You cannot step fully into what I am preparing for you while carrying relationships that drain you, confuse you, or subtly compete with you. Your next season requires clarity, emotional honesty, and spiritual alignment. Not everyone qualifies for that journey. Some individuals stayed close to you because you made them feel important. Others stayed because you were useful. Some stayed because your presence made their life easier. But very few stayed because they genuinely wanted to see you become everything you were created to be. And that difference matters more now than it ever did before. You may not have had the language to describe it, but your soul recognized it. That quiet heaviness you felt after certain interactions was not exhaustion, it was misalignment. I know you tried to fix things internally. You adjusted your behavior. You softened your words. You lowered your expectations. You became quieter about your dreams, smaller about your victories, careful with your excitement. You thought that if you made yourself less visible, things would feel more peaceful. But shrinking yourself was never the solution. You were not created to dim your light so others could remain comfortable in the shadows. You were created to shine, even if it makes some people uncomfortable. There are people who do not want to lose access to you, but they also do not want to respect you. There are people who want your loyalty without offering honesty. There are people who enjoy your support but resist your growth. These are the individuals whose presence slowly drains your joy while smiling to your face. And while you questioned yourself, I was observing them closely. Nothing escaped my sight. Not the private conversations, not the subtle manipulation, not the quiet jealousy disguised as concern. You wondered why certain relationships suddenly felt strained for no obvious reason. You wondered why misunderstandings appeared out of nowhere. You wondered why distance began to form without clear conflict. That was not chaos. That was separation beginning. When I start removing fake connections, it often begins with discomfort, because truth disrupts what was built on pretense. What cannot survive honesty cannot come with you. I know part of you wanted closure, explanations, accountability. You wanted people to admit what they did, to acknowledge how they treated you, to recognize your worth. But closure does not always come through conversation. Sometimes closure comes through clarity. Sometimes it comes through peace replacing confusion. Sometimes it comes through silence revealing more than words ever could. You do not need everyone to understand your decision in order for it to be right. As I remove these people, it may feel lonely at first. Familiar voices will fade. Routine interactions will disappear. And your mind may try to convince you that you made a mistake, that you were too harsh, that you should have tried harder. But understand this, space is not emptiness, it is preparation. Silence is not loss, it is reset. What feels like subtraction is actually protection. I am teaching you to recognize energy, not just words. To value consistency, not just connection. To honor actions over promises. This is a maturation of your spirit. You are learning that access to you is earned, not automatic. That trust is built, not assumed. That not everyone who walks with you is meant to walk deep with you. And that lesson is essential for where you are going. You will begin to notice that your peace feels lighter without certain presences. That your thoughts feel clearer without constant emotional noise. That your prayers feel more focused without internal conflict. That is not coincidence. That is alignment being restored. I am clearing your environment so your spirit can breathe again. Some people will not understand your distance, because they benefited from your closeness. Some will label your boundaries as arrogance, because they were used to your availability. Some will say you changed, because you stopped accepting what once hurt you. Let them talk. You are not responsible for the narratives people create when they lose access to you. What is coming next requires emotional honesty, spiritual strength, and discernment you did not have before. You could not enter this next phase carrying relationships that thrived on confusion, dependency, or control. That is why this removal is happening now, not later. Timing matters. Protection matters. And you matter more than you realize. Do not chase explanations. Do not seek validation. Do not reopen doors I have already closed. Trust what I am doing, even if you do not fully understand it yet, because this separation is only the beginning, and in the next part one will show you what is being made ready for you now that these fake connections are being removed and why what comes next will require a stronger, clearer, and more protected version of you. Now that the noise has started to fade, I want you to pay attention to what you are feeling underneath the silence. This is the part many people misunderstand. They think removal is about loss, but what you are experiencing right now is not loss, it is relief slowly revealing itself. At first, the quiet feels unfamiliar. Your mind reaches for the familiar patterns, the old conversations, the routine check-ins, even the drama you once tolerated. But beneath that surface discomfort, there is a calm beginning to settle in, and that calm is not accidental. It is the sound of your spirit finally having room to speak. You are realizing how much energy you spent managing emotions that were never yours to manage. How often you adjusted your tone, explained your intentions, or apologized just to keep the peace. You normalized behavior that should have been questioned, and you questioned yourself instead. That cycle ends here. The moment I begin removing fake people from your life is the moment I begin restoring your sense of self. You are not difficult. You were surrounded by dynamics that required you to constantly minimize yourself. Notice how your thoughts are becoming clearer. Notice how your intuition feels sharper. Notice how you are no longer second-guessing every interaction. That is what happens when manipulation leaves and truth remains. Fake connections thrive in confusion. They need blurred lines, emotional dependency, and unspoken expectations. When clarity enters, they no longer feel comfortable, because clarity exposes what was hidden. That is why some people left without explanation. They could not stay once masks began to fall. I know you wondered if you were imagining things. You replayed conversations in your head, questioning whether certain comments were harmless or intentional. You asked yourself if certain behaviors were accidental or calculated. Let me be clear with you now. What you sensed was accurate. Your spirit recognized patterns before your mind had words for them. Discernment often speaks quietly, and those who ignore it pay later with exhaustion, confusion, and self-doubt. You listened in time. As these people exit your life, you may feel moments of nostalgia. Not because they were good for you, but because they were familiar. Familiarity can feel comforting even when it is unhealthy. Do not confuse history with destiny. Someone being present in your past does not automatically earn them a place in your future. Growth requires discernment, and discernment sometimes requires distance. I am also teaching you something important in this season. Not everyone who leaves was an enemy, and not everyone who stays is automatically safe. Some people were simply out of alignment with who you are becoming. They were not evil, but they were not equipped to walk with the healed version of you. They knew how to connect with you in your overgiving phase, but not in your self-respecting one. That does not make them bad, but it does mean they cannot come with you. There is a version of you emerging now that no longer tolerates subtle disrespect, emotional manipulation, or one-sided effort. This version listens more than it explains. This version observes patterns instead of reacting emotionally. This version no longer feels the need to prove worth or loyalty. And this version is protected, because it is rooted in truth rather than approval. You may notice that certain people attempt to re-enter your life once they feel the distance. They may send messages that sound concerned. They may act confused about why things changed. They may suddenly remember your value when access is no longer guaranteed. Be still. Not every return is genuine. Some returns are driven by loss of control, not love. Discernment will tell you the difference if you allow it to speak. Do not feel guilty for outgrowing spaces that no longer nourish you. Growth will always offend those who benefited from your silence. Boundaries will always feel threatening to those who relied on your lack of them. But you are not here to maintain comfort at the cost of your peace. You are here to live aligned, whole, and honest. I am rebuilding your emotional foundation right now. I am teaching you how to feel without being consumed, how to care without being drained, how to love without losing yourself. This process may feel uncomfortable because it requires unlearning patterns you once believed were necessary for connection. You thought being needed meant being valued. You thought being available meant being loved. But true connection does not demand self-abandonment. As your energy shifts, your environment will continue to change. You may notice fewer people around you, but the quality of those connections will begin to increase. You will start to attract individuals who respect your boundaries, honor your growth, and celebrate your peace instead of competing with it. These connections will not be loud or dramatic. They will feel safe, steady, and sincere. That is how alignment feels. I know there are moments when you wonder if you will ever find people who truly understand you, who see you without trying to use you, who listen without waiting to benefit. Trust me when I tell you this. I do not remove without replacing. I do not empty spaces without intention. The silence you feel now is not permanent. It is preparation. Right now, your task is not to fill the space quickly. Your task is to sit with clarity. To observe how peace feels in your body. To learn what alignment sounds like in your thoughts. To notice how much lighter you feel without constantly performing emotional labor. This awareness will protect you from repeating old patterns. You are also learning that not every connection deserves an explanation. Some people lost access because they misused it. Some relationships ended because they were built on convenience rather than sincerity. You do not owe closure to those who benefited from confusion. Peace does not always come from conversation. Sometimes it comes from acceptance. As you continue forward, you will become more selective, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You will listen more closely to how people make you feel rather than what they say. You will notice consistency over time rather than intensity in moments. And you will stop confusing familiarity with safety. This is growth, even if it feels quiet and unseen right now. What you are stepping into next will require this level of discernment. You cannot afford emotional distractions where you are going. You cannot afford relationships that drain your focus, distort your truth, or pull you back into old versions of yourself. That is why this separation had to happen before the next door opens. You are being prepared for alignment, not isolation. For depth, not dependency. For peace, not performance. And in the next part, I will reveal how this removal is directly connected to the opportunities, connections, and elevation that are approaching now, and why protecting your energy will become even more important as you step into what I am about to place in front of you. As this new clarity settles in, I want you to understand something deeper about why this separation had to happen before anything else could move forward. Elevation and exposure often arrive together, and not everyone around you was prepared for what is about to be revealed in your life. When I begin to lift someone, I must first secure their surroundings. I must remove access points that could become vulnerabilities. I must quiet the noise so discernment can remain sharp. What you are stepping into requires protection, not popularity. You may not see it yet, but doors are aligning in ways they never have before. Opportunities that once felt delayed are now being repositioned. Conversations you thought were over will resurface with new clarity. Paths that felt blocked are quietly opening. This is not coincidence. This is timing. And timing requires the right people in the right places, not lingering connections that carry hidden motives or unresolved tension. Some of the people who were removed would not have celebrated you in this next season. They would have questioned your growth, minimized your progress, or subtly competed with what was never meant to be compared. They would have asked for access without offering support. They would have tried to benefit from what they did not help build. That is why I moved them out of the way before anything became visible. Protection often looks like prevention. I know there were moments when you felt overlooked, when you wondered why things took so long, when you questioned whether your effort was even being noticed. But understand this. Delay was not denial. Delay was development. While you were waiting, you were being refined. While you were confused, your discernment was strengthening. While you were being tested emotionally, your boundaries were being formed. You are stepping forward now with wisdom you did not have before. This next phase of your life will demand emotional maturity. You will be required to make decisions without needing approval. You will be asked to stand firm even when misunderstood. You will be trusted with responsibility that requires integrity, not validation. And that is why fake connections could not remain. They would have interfered with your focus. They would have diluted your confidence. They would have made you question yourself at moments when certainty is required. Notice how your priorities are changing. You are no longer drawn to noise, drama, or constant explanation. You value peace more than attention. You value truth more than comfort. You value alignment more than history. This is not detachment. This is clarity. You are learning to recognize what nourishes you and what depletes you, and that awareness will guide you safely forward. I want you to understand something important. Being chosen does not mean being isolated forever. It means being refined before connection. It means learning to stand alone so you can stand strong with the right people. It means no longer settling for proximity when alignment is what your spirit truly needs. The people who are meant to walk with you next will not compete with you, drain you, or confuse you. They will complement your growth. You may also begin to notice that certain individuals are observing you from a distance now. They may not speak directly, but they are watching. Some out of curiosity. Some out of regret. Some out of comparison. Let them watch. Your life is no longer a group discussion. What I am doing in you does not require public understanding. It requires personal obedience. There will be moments when old memories resurface, when you remember times that felt good before things changed. Do not romanticize what no longer exists. Every season has a purpose, and when that purpose is fulfilled, holding on only delays what is next. Gratitude for the lesson does not require access to the future. You are allowed to move forward without carrying everything with you. I am also teaching you how to trust yourself again. For a long time, you doubted your instincts because you were surrounded by people who subtly questioned them. You learned to override your inner voice to maintain harmony. That is changing now. Your intuition is becoming stronger because it is no longer being drowned out by external influence. Trust that voice. It has been trained through experience. As your confidence stabilizes, you will become more grounded. You will speak less, but your words will carry more weight. You will explain less, but your presence will be felt more deeply. You will no longer feel the need to convince anyone of your worth. That internal shift is the foundation for what comes next. Confidence rooted in truth cannot be shaken by opinion. There are blessings approaching that require discretion. Not everything that is meant for you needs to be announced. Not everyone needs access to your plans, your thoughts, or your next move. You are learning the power of privacy. You are learning that peace grows when everything is not shared. This is wisdom, not secrecy. Protection often begins with silence. I know you are still adjusting to the changes around you. Change, even when necessary, can feel disorienting. But trust the process. Trust the timing. Trust the clarity that has been given to you. You are not falling behind. You are aligning. And alignment always feels slower before it feels steady. Very soon, you will start to see evidence of why this separation was necessary. Situations will unfold that would have been compromised if certain people were still present. Conversations will reveal truths you were once shielded from. Outcomes will confirm that removal was mercy, not loss. When that happens, your only response will be gratitude. You are stepping into a season where your energy matters. Where your focus determines your outcome. Where your environment influences your elevation. That is why I am asking you to be intentional now. Choose peace without apology. Choose clarity without guilt. Choose alignment even when it feels unfamiliar. This is not the end of connection. This is the beginning of alignment. And as you prepare to move forward, there is one more layer of protection and preparation that needs to be revealed, because in the next part one will show you how to guard what is coming, how to recognize who truly belongs in your life moving forward, and why discernment will become your greatest strength in this new season. Now that you are standing in this space of alignment, I need you to understand how important it is to protect what is being rebuilt inside you. This season is not just about what you gain, it is about what you guard. When peace finally enters your life, it must be defended intentionally, because not everyone who approaches you next will deserve access. Some will be curious. Some will be impressed. Some will be drawn to the stability you now carry. But attraction does not equal assignment. You are no longer the version of yourself that accepted every invitation, explained every decision, or opened every door out of politeness. You have learned that access to you is sacred. That your energy carries weight. That your presence has value. And that not everyone who wants to be close is meant to stay close. This awareness will save you from repeating cycles that once drained you. I want you to move slowly now when it comes to connection. Observe how people respond to your boundaries. Notice who respects your time without guilt-tripping you. Notice who celebrates your growth without inserting themselves into it. Notice who listens without immediately redirecting the conversation back to themselves. These small details will reveal more truth than grand gestures ever could. Discernment lives in consistency, not performance. Some people will approach you differently now. They will sense that you are no longer easily influenced. That you no longer over-explain. That you no longer chase approval. This may make them uncomfortable. Some will try to test your boundaries to see if the old version of you still exists. Stay steady. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They are not meant to keep everyone out, only to let the right ones in. You may also feel moments of temptation to reconnect with what feels familiar, especially during quiet moments. Loneliness can sometimes disguise itself as nostalgia. Do not mistake comfort for alignment. Just because something is familiar does not mean it is safe. Just because someone knows your past does not mean they deserve access to your future. You are allowed to evolve beyond what once felt normal. This is also the season where you will learn the difference between being needed and being valued. Being needed can feel flattering, but it often comes with pressure, expectation, and emotional dependence. Being valued feels calm. It feels respectful. It does not demand constant availability or emotional labor. The right people will not drain you to stay connected. They will meet you with balance. I am teaching you to trust how your body responds to people, not just your mind. Pay attention to how you feel after interactions. Do you feel energized or exhausted? Clear or confused? Peaceful or tense? Your body often recognizes misalignment before your thoughts do. This awareness is part of your protection. Do not ignore it. You will notice that the connections meant for you now will feel different. They will not rush intimacy. They will not pressure you to reveal everything quickly. They will not require you to abandon your boundaries to prove loyalty. These relationships will grow naturally, steadily, without force. That is how healthy alignment forms. There will still be moments when others misunderstand your distance. Some may accuse you of being distant, cold, or changed. Let them believe what they choose. You are not responsible for maintaining access to preserve someone else's comfort. Growth often requires disappointing people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. That discomfort is not yours to carry. I want you to remember this clearly. You are not closing yourself off. You are opening yourself wisely. You are no longer available for confusion, emotional manipulation, or one-sided effort. You are available for honesty, consistency, and mutual respect. That distinction matters more than ever now. As you protect your peace, you will begin to feel stronger internally. Decisions will come more easily. Your confidence will feel quieter but more stable. You will no longer feel the urge to prove your worth or explain your choices. When alignment is present, explanation becomes unnecessary. Peace becomes your confirmation. You are stepping into a phase where discernment is not optional, it is essential. The more you honor it, the more effortless your life will begin to feel. Less resistance. Less emotional exhaustion. Less confusion. More clarity. More stability. More trust in yourself. This is the foundation of the life you are building now. Very soon, you will recognize that the removal you once questioned was actually preparation. That the distance you once feared was actually protection. That the silence you once resisted was actually guidance. When you see this clearly, gratitude will replace doubt completely. There is still one final truth you need to hear, one that will anchor everything you have learned so far, because in the final part one will remind you of who you are becoming, why this season is permanent growth rather than temporary change, and how trusting this process fully will unlock the peace and stability you have been searching for all along. Now listen closely, because this is where everything comes together. This is where understanding settles, and peace becomes permanent. What you have walked through was not temporary discomfort. It was transformation. You were not losing people, you were losing illusions. You were not being isolated, you were being refined. And you were not being punished, you were being prepared. You are becoming someone who no longer begs for understanding, no longer explains their worth, no longer tolerates emotional imbalance for the sake of connection. You are becoming grounded, centered, secure. The version of you that emerges after discernment is not loud, not defensive, not reactive. It is calm. It is observant. It is steady. And that kind of presence does not need validation to be powerful. I want you to understand this clearly. The peace you feel now is not fragile. It is earned. It came from lessons learned, boundaries formed, and truths accepted. You paid attention when something felt off. You chose clarity over comfort. You honored your intuition when it would have been easier to ignore it. That is why this peace will last. It is not based on circumstances. It is based on alignment. From this point forward, you will move differently. You will speak when it matters and remain silent when it does not. You will no longer chase closeness that requires self-betrayal. You will no longer mistake attention for affection or familiarity for safety. You will recognize sincerity without needing it to announce itself. And you will trust yourself enough to walk away when something does not feel right, without guilt and without explanation. There will still be people who do not understand your growth. Some will try to reconnect out of curiosity. Some out of regret. Some because they sense that you are no longer accessible in the way you once were. Remember this. Access to you is no longer automatic. It is intentional. And intention protects what is valuable. The connections meant for you moving forward will not require you to shrink, perform, or overextend. They will meet you where you are. They will respect your boundaries without testing them. They will honor your time, your energy, and your growth. These relationships will feel mutual, balanced, and steady. There will be no confusion about where you stand. That clarity is the reward for the work you have done internally. You are also learning to be at peace with yourself in solitude. This is important. Solitude is not loneliness when it is chosen with wisdom. It is space to hear yourself clearly. It is space to reconnect with what matters. It is space to strengthen your relationship with your own thoughts, values, and purpose. From this space, you will choose connection, not cling to it. I want you to release any remaining guilt about the people who are no longer in your life. Guilt often comes from old conditioning that taught you to prioritize others at your own expense. You are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to outgrow dynamics that no longer serve you. You are allowed to protect your emotional well-being without apologizing for it. Growth does not require permission. Everything that was removed made room for what aligns. Everything that ended cleared the way for what is stable. Everything that felt uncomfortable taught you discernment you will rely on for years to come. Nothing was wasted. Not the confusion. Not the disappointment. Not the silence. Every part of this process strengthened you in ways you could not see at the time. You are no longer available for cycles that drain you. You are no longer accessible to those who only show up when it is convenient. You are no longer questioning your worth in rooms that never honored it. That chapter is closed. And it does not need to be reopened for validation or explanation. As you move forward, trust how grounded you feel. Trust the calm confidence replacing anxiety. Trust the clarity replacing confusion. Trust the peace replacing emotional noise. These are not signs of distance. They are signs of alignment. When your life becomes quieter, it is often because it has become truer. Remember this always. I remove what is fake to protect what is real. I create distance to bring clarity. I close doors to guide you toward the ones that are meant for you. You are not behind. You are not lacking. You are exactly where you need to be, becoming exactly who you are meant to be. Walk forward without fear. Carry your boundaries with confidence. Honor your discernment without doubt. You are no longer surviving connections. You are choosing alignment. And this time, peace is not temporary. It is the foundation of everything that comes next.